This is a game in the T110E5, the Tier 10 American heavy tank on Malinovka encounter mode. A lot of people ask me what what top tier heavy tanks I like to play in pub matches, and really the top two are the E5 and the E100. And the reason why I like the E5 is for a couple of reasons. One is that it has just barely enough armor to be relevant, so you can find a lot of places where you can actually bounce shells and hold down and things like that. The gun is decent, pretty good all-around gun, particularly at the close to mid-range, which you will usually be fighting in with this tank. And then also it has pretty reasonable mobility for a heavy. It's reasonably quick, and it doesn't have a super high top speed, but it's got pretty good acceleration to where you want to go. And so on Malinovka encounter, typically what you'll do in a heavy, particularly in a game with no artillery, is go up onto the hill. That's what we're going to do. They added these sort of ditches to the back of the zone lines here, so that you can it protects you from direct fire and from being spotted. So you want to, when you go up here, you want to be as close to the zone line as possible. And so that's where we're going to end up heading. And I think that the east spawn over here has a slight advantage on taking the hill, because the windmill here is a solid cover, and it's rather useful for defending yourself on this hilltop. And we will take advantage of that shortly. And so we see a T-57, and again, a large number of their tanks up there. There's an IS-3 that went down below, but he's not going to be a concern. Usually, particularly if you have a heavy tank down there, they're just going to pin themselves down there. So this is usually where the main confrontation will take place. And so we've got a couple shots down on this T-57 heavy, so what we want to do is try to retrack him out here if we can. And we can't, but he's still going to be backing up. He's still reloading his clip, so we ideally want to be able to knock him down. We're not going to be able to kill him there, but at least we can knock him down to one shot, which will make him very reluctant to sort of poke up and be too aggressive. And then so I can use this sort of area now. Now that we've cleared out this zero line, those guys that moved up have been pushed back, so that makes this zero line much more profitable. And so what I'm essentially doing is I'm just using this cover and the fact that there's a little bit of a hold down for me here. So the shots that they have really are mostly just shots at my turret. The cupola, the commander's cupola, the little hatch that's on top of the tank is centered left a little bit, and so a lot of times when you're peeking around the left to aim at things, you can hide it behind, you know, little bits of the building and whatnot. Okay. And so they've pushed across this field on the other side. They're probably going to wipe that out eventually. We've got a lot of tanks up on this hill area, but none of them are very far forward. So there's not a lot of tanks other than myself and Crab shooting at these guys over here. And so the health is about even, but we're down 3 tanks or so. But we can't really work that much faster here. They've still got 6 tanks in front of us, so you don't want to push out and be on a 1v6. We're starting to, we have 3 guys right here moving across this top plateau right here. So I took a peek around this side of the lighthouse, but usually you don't really get that many good shots. You want to always go opposite of where everyone else is going, ideally. Or at least split out a little bit wider than where everyone else is. And unfortunately we could not take out the T-57 heavy there. And now we're down a little bit of health. We've lost the field side. So it's only going to be a matter of time before we sort of lose the backside of our defense here, and then they can get the hill area and the flank. So we're going to have to start working a little bit faster here. Be a little bit more aggressive. I thought this E3 was facing the other way, but luckily I backed up quickly enough for him to bounce off the front, and that allows Crab to shoot him in the side because he was facing me. And so now these guys are sort of backing off down the hill. And then you can see how it's a little bit, they're downhill from me, so I can basically use this as a hull down. And once they back up off of this line of bushes that are right here, you can use to fire through. And it doesn't really matter how good or how bad your camo is. You can hide a JPE back there just because there's so many lines of bushes. And so they're backing off, and so again we're losing this backside here, so we need to try to clear this out so that we have an opportunity to turn around and face the people that'll be coming up behind us. You don't want to ever be sitting and waiting to get yourself flanked. So they've still got a bit of health here. They've got two one-shot tanks over there on my left that are just below the horizon, the Indian Panzer and the IS-8, and as they back up, they're going to be in an area where I can shoot them. So you definitely want to take them out before they back up. The E-75 is sort of captive audience, so he's less of a concern. And then now we can just focus on the E-75 because the E-75 can't run away. And they have a guy on cap, but cap is really never a concern on Malinovka and counter. Not only is it very long, it's a very, very open cap. There's this trench back there, but as long as you have, you know, any remote semblance of map control on either side, you can kill whoever's in the cap. So their guys have sort of stalled out a little bit on this backside over here. But we've cleared out most of this side over here, so we know that, you know, they have at least 3 tanks over there, 1 tank over there, and so that's all of their tanks are essentially accounted for. So we can just need to make sure that we clear off the cap, and Oberist from his position is going to be able to shoot that guy. And you can see, like, Crab from where he's at can shoot this guy, and Obey from where he's at can shoot that guy in that trench. So that's why that capping on Malinovka is never really that good of an option.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
And then now it's just pretty much clean up. So in summary, so what you should do on Malinovka and counter if you're in a heavy tank, even if you're in a medium tank, there's 2 essential areas that you can play from this east side. One is you can go up on the hill. 2 is you can play in this area, this general area down here. You never really want to go to the other side unless you are in, against a composition that's really heavy and you're a really light composition, like if you have a lot of mediums. And you'll notice that against that E50M, once he turned his turret, I shot into the turret instead of the hull. So you can go up here or in this area over here as in most tanks. And it's a similar thing from the other side. From the other side, you can go to the hill again. There's a slight advantage, in my opinion, from the east because of that windmills offset slightly to the south, so you can get some hard cover there. But it's not so significant that it makes a difference in if you spawn from the north, if you wanted to, depending on where you spawned, you can go up there and you'll get there at virtually the same time. So it's not really some huge advantage that you should avoid if you're on the other side. And then, so if you're on that north spawn, you can go up here or in this general area over here. And then again, you can push through this south here, but it usually takes a really long time, so I would only do it if you're in a fast tank with a light composition, and I don't normally recommend that anybody tries to cap. And so if we look at the stats, so this is why, one of the reasons why I like this tank. So because we were essentially hulled down on the hill, we did the bulk of our damage when we were up on that hill. Because we were hulled down and we got to choose the opportunities in which we got to fire, we got some good shots on people where they didn't really have a lot of time or a good angle to shoot at us. Most of the shots that were taken at us were, just basically while we were hulled down, hope shots that were trying to hit the cupola while we were moving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that really allows us to sit there and dish out damage, and the armor is relevant enough, particularly in pub match situations where you can block a lot of damage. We blocked 7.5k damage by armor, and that's something that you can do, particularly in a lot of these tanks where you can hull down and sort of make yourself a target, make yourself something that commands attention so that your guys on the other side, the guys on the 9 line have better shots if I'm attracting a lot of attention on the 0 line, and vice versa, of course. So just pretty solid tank all around, and I think if that's why it's one of my more favorite pub tanks to play. So anyhow, I hope that this was a sort of good primer on the E5 and also a little bit of info on Malinovka. So thanks for watching.